Okay, let's talk about our application problems. We haven't done a whole lot of these yet this year, but we're going to start doing these every day. And today I just kind of wanted to see what you remembered from what Miss Parrish taught you last year in 3rd grade. So remember, when we solve application problems, we need to solve the problem and do what? Write about our thinking. Okay, so let's kind of review the things that we need to write about. What are some things that we need to include when we're writing about our mathematical thinking? Jacob?
How you got your answer.
How you got your answer. That's definitely important, explaining how you got your answer. What else is important that we make sure we include? What are you thinking, Ansley?
Showing your work.
Showing your work is important. What else? We got to show our work and explain what we were thinking. So if I just write, if my writing says the answer is 37,000 because I added 12,000 plus 14,000 plus 11,000. Does that tell the person who's reading your answer anything about what you're answering, what the question was, or how you got your answer?
You could say I rounded, and that's how I got my answer.
Very good. We need to tell the person that's reading that we rounded. We also need to, it's very important that we always make a statement first. Okay? So here's what I mean by a statement. I mean that we put the question in our answer. We're going to make a sentence. The very first sentence is going to be putting the question in my answer. Okay? So we're going to remember the P, put the question in my answer. That's called a statement. Okay? So let's talk about what that would look like. We had 2 questions in this sentence, in this problem. About how many calories did Meredith consume altogether? And we have a second question, which of these estimates would produce a more accurate answer? So we're going to have to make sure that we have a statement or a sentence that tells those things. And we'll talk exactly what that looks like in just a second. But we will always want to remember to start with that. The next thing we're going to remember is to say, I got my answer by, and then I'm going to tell what I did through explaining what I did. Did Miss Parrish teach you pi last year? Yeah, we should. Okay. Yeah. We're going to always start with putting the question in your answer. Like, I got my answer by, or you could also say, I know my answer is correct because. Either one of those 2 sentences will work, so I'm going to go ahead and write that. You could say that, or I know my answer is correct because, and then you're going to tell what you did through the E, explaining what you did, giving examples and telling exactly. Now let's think. The end goal is that you can explain your thinking. If you're explaining your thinking, can the person who is reading your work always see what you've done on scratch paper? Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. What if you're sending an email? or you're submitting something that you have to type, can they see what you've done on paper? They can't, so you're going to have to tell with your words. Yes, ma'am, Olivia?
Can I go to the restroom?
Go quickly. Yes.
Can I go in my dress?
Not right now. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to use what we've just done, and we're going to write an example of a good quality pie answer that puts the question in the answer, makes a statement, tells how I got my answer, and explains exactly what I did with a lot of details. All right, so the very first thing I have to start with is what? What am I starting with? Put the question in my answer. You had how many questions today? 2. So I've got to have 2 statements that answer those questions. And I want to make sure when I make those statements that if Miss Rook looked at your answer, but she didn't see the question, she didn't see the problem, she only sees what you wrote. The goal is that whoever reads your answer would know exactly what the problem was asking you without having to see the problem. So I'm going to start with a sentence that's going to tell my answer. So everyone's worked this out now. So you've come up with your answer. Okay. So my sentence is going to say, Meredith, that's the person in the problem. That's important that we include her. Meredith consumed about, and your answer was 37,000. Is that what most everyone got?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. Meredith consumed about 37,000 what? Calories.
That is not enough at all.
Okay. Meredith consumes about 37 calories altogether. Is that a complete sentence? Yeah, so what am I going to end with?
Period.
A period. Where did I get my words from that I used in that sentence? Where did I get those words from? Ansley? Yeah, exactly from the problem. About how many calories did Meredith consume altogether? I just changed that first question into a statement, into a sentence that tells the question and includes the answer. Okay, so I'm going to do that again now with my second question. Which of these estimates will produce a more accurate answer, rounding to the nearest 1,000 or rounding to the nearest 10,000? Which one gives you a more accurate answer, Jacob? Rounding to the nearest 1,000. So I'm going to now write another statement or another sentence to include that question. I'm going to say rounding to the nearest 1,000 gave me a more accurate answer. Again, I took exactly the words that were in the question. Which of these estimates will produce a more accurate answer? Rounding to the nearest 1,000 gave me a more accurate answer. And it tells me to explain. So I'm going to go ahead and write the word because. So why is rounding to the nearest 1,000 going to be more accurate than rounding to the nearest 10,000, Christopher?
Because it's closer to the actual number, but it's a lower place value.
It's a smaller place value, exactly. So that's going to get me closer to the actual number. So I'm going to say that rounding to the nearest 1,000 gave me a more accurate answer because rounding to a smaller place value always gives an answer closer to the actual value. So we knew that part without having to work anything out, didn't we?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go to the next page real quick. I'm going to get us a blank page. And we're going to actually solve this. I know you've all done this on your own. So the first week she consumed, week 1, she had 12,490 calories. Week 2, she consumed 14,295 calories. And week 3, she consumed 11,116 calories. I'm just kind of writing that down so that I can organize my work. So if I rounded 12,490 to the nearest thousand, we knew that it would be more accurate. About how many calories would that be? Jaden, how would I round 12,490 to the nearest thousand? Okay, so how many thousands do I have? Let's start with that question. I have a 2 in my thousands place value. I have 12 altogether, so I can go ahead and underline my thousands place value and anything bigger because I know that I can regroup those into thousands. What's going to be my deciding number? What determines if it's over the midpoint or below the midpoint? Where do I look? The nosy neighbor or the neighbor to the right, which is the hundreds place.
Depends on what it is.
And that nosy neighbor is a 4.
Which is below 5, so you don't round it up.
Exactly. It's below 5 or the midpoint, halfway. So I don't round up. It's going to stay 12,000. Okay, I can do the same thing for week 2. I have 14,295. What does that round to, Ansley? What does this round to if I round to the nearest thousand? 14,000. It's below the midpoint also. And week 3, 11,116 is going to round to what? What would that round to, Owen? 11,116. Rounds to 11,000. How do you know that?
Because the 100 is not over 500.
Yeah, 100 is going to be closer to 11,000. It's below the midpoint, so it's closer to 11,000 than it is 12,000. All right, so that gives me my estimates. I have about 12,000 calories week 1, about 14,000 calories for week 2, and about 11,000 calories for week 3. So what strategy did you use to put those 3 numbers together, Harper?
I added them all together and got 37.
Okay, so did you add all 3 at the same time, or did you put 2 together and then the other one? All 3 together at the same time? Okay, perfect. We can do 12,000 plus 14,000 plus 11,000. All together, if I look at my thousands place value, 2 plus 4 plus 1 is 7. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So that would be 37 thousands. And we've already put that in our answer back here on where we were writing. We already said that she consumed about 37,000 calories. Okay. So now what can I add to explain my thinking? To say, I know my answer's correct. This is what I did. What can I say? Let's say I can go ahead and start with that sentence starter. I know my answer is correct because what did we do first? Let's go back and look at what we did. What did we do to week 1?
Turned it to 12,000.
Yeah. How did we turn it to 12,000? What did we do?
Because it was past 500.
Yeah. What's that called?
Rounding.
Rounding. So I'm going to say, because I rounded 12,490 to 12,000. Then I rounded my second week, which was 14,295 to, what did we round week 2?
14,000.
To 14,000. And week 3, she actually consumed 11,116, and we rounded that to what? 11,000. All right, so first we told that we rounded them. After we rounded each one of those values, what did we do next? What did we do with them?
We added them together.
Very good. So I'm going to say next, I added 12,000 plus 14,000 plus 11,000 to get, or I could say which equals either one, to get 37,000. I told what my answer was in a statement. I told how I got my answer, or how I know my answer's correct, and I explained what I did. The only thing that we did not explain in what we've written is how we rounded. So I could go back and I can add exactly what I did each time I rounded, or I can say just a general statement about rounding. I'm going to say, since I was rounding to the thousands, the thousands place value, I looked to see if I had more than 500 to know how, I'm running out of room, to round. And that's what you would explain to me whenever we were actually working those out. We knew that we had to look at that hundreds place value to see if it was 5 or above, which would tell us to round up, or below 5, which tells us to stay the same. That told us how to round. Okay? So I know that was a lot. We took a long time to explain all that, but I wanted to kind of give us a recap, and we'll do some more practice with making sure that we're making good quality explanations whenever we are writing about our thinking.